It started with a press release. Just another summer headline dropped while most of France was on holiday. EDF, the state-owned energy giant, announced it was selling 64% of its tech arm, Exaion, to an American company, Mata Holdings, for $168 million. On paper, it's just business, but this isn't about money. This is about the scandal that threatens France's technological independence. And, just like the Alstom affair all over again, the French government is doing nothing, but let's understand exactly what's being sold off, because Exaion isn't just any subsidiary. Founded in 2017, Exaion emerged from something remarkable: EDF's decision to repurpose their massive nuclear power plant supercomputers. When nuclear reactors aren't running at full capacity, they generate enormous amounts of excess electricity. Most utilities just waste this energy, but EDF had a different idea. They built Exaion to harness this surplus power and transform it into one of Europe's most high-performance computing platforms. Exaion's supercomputers were processing some of the most sensitive data in Europe, from climate modeling that helps predict environmental disasters to blockchain services that secure cryptocurrency networks. From artificial intelligence research to defense-grade computations, the company had quietly become the backbone of France's digital sovereignty. What makes Exaion truly special and truly dangerous in the wrong hands is that the computing infrastructure was built with military-grade security protocols. It was designed to handle France's most classified computational needs. It can process nuclear reactor simulations, military logistics algorithms, and strategic economic modeling. The kind of computational power that, in the wrong hands, could be used to understand and potentially exploit France's critical infrastructure vulnerabilities. By 2025, Exaion was generating substantial revenue and had established partnerships with major French corporations, research institutions, and government agencies requiring ultra-secure computational services. The company had essentially become France's secret weapon in the global digital arms race, masquerading as a simple EDF subsidiary, but financial pressure was mounting on EDF. The state-owned utility was struggling under massive debt loads, and when you're hemorrhaging cash and American investors come knocking with $168 million, temptation becomes irresistible. Enter Fred Thiel. Mara Holdings chairman and CEO with over 35 years in the tech sector, has previously led companies like GameSpy, Local Corporation, and Lantronix. Under his leadership, since 2021, Mara transformed from a simple Bitcoin mining operation into something far more ambitious. Basically, it's a company at the intersection of crypto, AI, and high-performance computing. Based in Florida, Mara had built their reputation as one of North America's largest Bitcoin mining operations. On paper, their interest in Exaion made perfect sense. Cryptocurrency mining requires massive computational power, and Exaion had exactly that infrastructure. But dig deeper, and a more complex picture emerges. Mara Holdings is a publicly traded company with financial backing and board members including former executives from major defense contractors and financial service companies that regularly work with government agencies. Yep, Mara would pay $168 million upfront for a 64% controlling stake in Exaion, with an option to acquire an additional 11% for another $127 million if certain milestones were met by 2027. This would give an American company effective control over some of Europe's most sophisticated computing infrastructure. Mind you, the very infrastructure was originally built using French taxpayer money and nuclear expertise. Throughout 2024 and early 2025, American companies have been systematically targeting European tech assets, particularly those with dual-use capabilities serving both civilian and military purposes. Exaion, with its combination of supercomputing power, nuclear industry connections, and French government relationships, was exactly the kind of strategic asset that would be invaluable for American intelligence purposes. Think about what Mara was really acquiring: not just computers and software, but access to France's computational secrets. The algorithms used to model nuclear reactor performance, the security protocols protecting French critical infrastructure, the data processing techniques used by French intelligence services. In the wrong hands, this information could be weaponized to understand and exploit vulnerabilities in France's most critical systems. The announcement came at a critical moment when French political attention was focused elsewhere. President Macron was dealing with Olympic aftermath, economic challenges across Europe, and ongoing EU-China relation complexities. The French Ministry of Economy was preoccupied with broader industrial policy questions and EDF's debt restructuring. Mara and their advisors had done homework. They knew that under French law, foreign acquisitions of strategic assets require government approval, but only if certain thresholds are met and specific sectors are involved. By structuring the deal as an acquisition of a utility subsidiary focused on computational services, rather than direct purchase of critical infrastructure, they managed to fly under the regulatory radar. The deal was announced on Monday morning, August 11th, with carefully crafted press releases emphasizing Mara's plans to expand Exaion's AI capabilities and grow international presence. French media covered it as a positive development for French tech innovation, but then someone in the French government finally realized what was actually happening. Exactly 11 days after the deal was announced, the French Ministry of Economy dropped a bombshell. In a statement to AFP, ministry officials had announced that they had asked the EDF to reopen the Exaion sale dossier, citing concerns about technological sovereignty. The ministry's language was diplomatic, but the message was clear. This deal was a national security disaster waiting to happen. Why had it taken 11 days for government reaction? Who had really raised the alarm? And most importantly, was it too late to stop an American company from acquiring control over France's most sensitive technological assets? Behind scenes, French intelligence services were reportedly furious. Sources close to the DGSE suggested that the Exaion deal had triggered security reviews, revealing just how much sensitive information could potentially be transferred to American control. Computational models used for nuclear safety assessment, algorithms optimizing France's electrical grid, and data processing techniques used by French government agencies. The parallels to the Alstom scandal were obvious and deeply unsettling. Once again, a French company with strategic technological capabilities was being acquired by an American corporation when France's attention was focused elsewhere. Once again, deal structure was designed to minimize regulatory scrutiny while maximizing American access to sensitive French technologies. But unlike Alstom, this time the French government acted before the deal was finalized. The question was whether they acted in time. The most revealing aspect of the Mara-Exaion deal is, of course, the price. $168 million for 64% of a company with cutting-edge supercomputing infrastructure, established government relationships, and strategic access to French nuclear industry data? To put this into perspective, Facebook paid $1 billion for Instagram when it had 13 employees and no revenue. Google routinely spends hundreds of millions acquiring AI startups with no proven technology, yet here was Mara, acquiring control over sophisticated computing infrastructure that took years to develop and millions of euros in government investment for less money than most Silicon Valley companies spend on office real estate. Did EDF properly assess Exaion's strategic value? Were government officials consulted about national security implications before the announcement? Was there pressure from higher government levels to approve the transaction quickly? The fact that it took 11 days for ministry intervention suggests normal oversight processes either failed or were deliberately circumvented. The Exaion scandal becomes even more disturbing when placed in the broader context of European technological assets being systematically acquired by American companies. Over the past 5 years, dozens of European tech companies with strategic capabilities have been sold to US corporations, often at suspiciously low prices. A German semiconductor company acquired by an American chip manufacturer, a Swedish cybersecurity firm purchased by a US defense contractor, a French AI startup bought by Silicon Valley investors. Individually, these seem like normal business. Collectively, they are a systematic transfer of European technological capabilities to American control. The Exaion case is significant because it's the first time French government has publicly acknowledged this pattern and attempted intervention before deal finalization. As of September 2025, the deal remains frozen while officials conduct thorough review of strategic implications. But stopping this deal now might be significantly more difficult than preventing it initially. Mara has legitimate contractual rights, having entered the acquisition agreement in good faith based on the regulatory environment existing when announced. This creates a classic catch-22. Allow the deal to proceed, and France loses control over strategic technological assets. Block it, and France faces potential legal challenges that could undermine future sovereignty protection efforts. If France successfully blocks Mara's acquisition, it could encourage other European countries to take more aggressive protective action. If the deal proceeds despite government objections, it signals American companies can acquire European strategic assets with minimal regulatory interference. Fred Thiel and Mara aren't backing down quietly. They've invested huge resources in this acquisition and have legitimate expectations based on existing regulatory frameworks. The company has positioned this as a routine business expansion, emphasizing job creation and technological advancement benefits. Meanwhile, French officials are scrambling to develop more sophisticated approaches to identifying and protecting critical technological assets. The regulatory frameworks designed for traditional industrial concerns are proving inadequate for modern technological competition realities. The Exaion scandal reveals fundamental inadequacies of the current European approach to technological sovereignty protection. In an era where computing power, data processing capabilities, and algorithmic intelligence are as strategically important as nuclear weapons, European governments need much more sophisticated threat identification and asset protection systems. This requires not just stronger laws, but faster decision-making processes, better coordination between government agencies, and a more proactive threat monitoring. The Exaion near miss should have been identified months before the announcement, not 11 days after. Most fundamentally, the scandal reveals how economic warfare has evolved in the 21st century. Traditional military conquest is unnecessary when you can simply buy your competitors' strategic assets at a market price. Why invade when you can acquire control over critical infrastructure through routine corporate transactions? The question now is whether European governments will learn from this wake-up call and develop effective defenses against future technological acquisition campaigns, or whether this scandal will join the long list of warnings that failed to prevent the next attack. The clock is ticking. American acquisition teams are already identifying the next set of European strategic assets to target. The age of digital colonialism has begun, and Europe is still figuring out how to fight back. The Exaion deal, expected to close in Q4 2025 or early 2026 pending regulatory approvals, will determine whether France has learned anything from the Alstom debacle or whether history is doomed to repeat itself with even higher stakes. Fred Thiel and Mara Holdings are waiting. The question is, will France blink first? What do you think? Drop your thoughts in the comments down below, and if this story intrigued you, wait until you hear about this one. Click here to watch the story now.